I want to cure my own aging. Like I always say, I love living. I think living's the greatest thing that ever happened to us. And I don't want to see living become any less lovable for any of us just because of this dumb thing called aging. And it's happening to all of us. And a lot of us just accept it. Let me cure aging without trying to control me. We could have aging cured in 1 to 3 years from now.
I'm Dr. Esra Çavuşoğlu, and I've been living a sober life for the past 19 years. My battle with addiction drove me to seek new methods, devices, and supplements to improve my physical and mental performance, enhance my quality of life, and ultimately live healthier for longer. From my experiences in addiction recovery, biohacking, and longevity to the latest global developments, from groundbreaking entrepreneurs to expert academics, the conversations I've had over the years are now featured weekly on Soberhead Podcast. Welcome to Soberhead Podcast. This week, we're traveling to the ends of your DNA with legendary telomere biologist, Dr. Bill Andrews. You'll hear why he calls inflammation the master clock of aging, how telomeres act like amusement park tickets that run out with every cell division, and why turning on the enzyme telomerase could, in theory, rewind that clock. Dr. Andrews breaks down the science of gene therapy trials already lengthening telomeres in animals. Imagine a future where curing aging sparks profound social change. If you ever wondered whether a 10-cent pill could add decades to your life, stay tuned. This episode is your primer on the next frontier of human health. A huge amount of people who watch Soberhead frequently are not subscribed. So, I will ask you a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button now, because when you subscribe, it helps us to make the show better and provides better access to the world-leading experts. I'd like to thank Gedik University and Gedik Foundation for their trust in Soberhead Podcast. With their support, it is possible for us to bring you this content at this quality for absolutely free. Our host for this episode is .sub, the space, community, and platform where creatives, experts, and entrepreneurs come together at the meeting point of continents, the Bosphorus. Follow the link in the show notes for more information about events and membership. Subscribe, like, and share, and I promise to continue to bring you a better Soberhead every day. Dr. Bill Andrews, welcome to Soberhead Podcast. I'm so honored. I'm just thrilled to have you. And I'm also I'm setting my bar so high and high and high. And I don't know who am I going to interview after you guys back to back, such amazing people in the aging field. Welcome to Soberhead Podcast. Today we're going to talk about telomeres, but actually, we're going to talk about even more than the telomeres, the aging. And I know that you have amazing researches around aging, and you're an evolutionary biologist. So you kind of know why we're aging. So these days, longevity, aging, we all do things, try to extend our health span. And I was so kind of disappointed in a way that before getting into the podcast with Liz Parrish, I did my work. And I saw that no matter what type of intervention I do now, yes, it's going to help me to be healthier, but it's not going to extend the aging. Like some people goes out there and say oh, I'm going to be 185 and I'm going to live until whatever. The other one is not going to die. But you're the authority. You're one of the authorities that know why are we aging, and what is causing, and if we can ever stop it. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. Bill Andrews. How shall we start? So shall we start, what is aging? Shall we start with that?
Yeah, well, what is aging, why we age, how not to age. Those are the kind of things I talk about all the time. But let me just say, first of all, my PhD's in evolution and molecular genetics. Okay, so I pursued that because I knew that I've been interested in anti-aging or figuring out a cure for aging my entire life. And I knew I needed to figure out why we age and how we age. Okay. And so I needed the evolutionary stuff to figure out why we age. And I needed the molecular biology stuff or molecular genetics as to how we age. And so I'm focused on both of those. And I also want to say, your best chance of living to be 185 right now is through Liz Parrish and BioViva. That is the best, the most best place right now at the moment to actually do something that could get you to live that long.
I watched the podcast. We didn't air it yet, and it's so interesting. I really want to be one of the guinea pigs. I'm not afraid, and I can get in like that. But, my understanding is that you want to call yourself an anti-aging pursuer almost. You don't call it longevity, but you call it anti-aging.
I call it cure for aging. I consider myself a medical researcher. I'm interested in all diseases, and almost all diseases are associated with aging. And so I believe that what I'm doing is not just going to cure aging, it's going to cure a lot of diseases too.
Aging is a disease. Why are they calling that like that? So because, up until a couple of years ago, it was like, people would get older and there would be some illnesses and they would, the time would come and they die. And then suddenly this aging is a disease. And I see on my platform that, oh my God, people get in fights in the comment part. Oh, this is natural. Why do we go against God? This is not an illness, and so on and so forth. You're the best person to answer that, I guess. Why is it you guys call it aging?
I've been dealing with that question ever since I've been 10 years old, because it was my father who taught me to call it the cure for aging. If it's cured, if something we're curing, then it must be a disease. But I am not a semantics expert. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. And in reality, the number one thing I want to do is I want to cure my own aging. I mean, like I always say, I love living. I think living's the greatest thing that ever happened to us. And I don't want to see living become any less lovable for any of us just because of this dumb thing called aging, and it's happening to all of us. And a lot of us just accept it. And I just can't. I mean, it's like, there's going to be a lot of problems in the world if we cure aging, but there's a lot of problems now. Okay. Anybody who goes into hospices or nursing homes or assisted living homes know that aging is terrible. I mean, there's people that you never see because they're locked up in these homes, and they're not locked up in the home, but they really can't go anywhere. They need somebody to feed them, do everything for them, take them to the bathroom, everything. We just don't know about it. But this aging is terrible in the world, and we got to fix this problem. And that's what I really like working with Liz Parrish and Sandy Kaufman, and now Elizabeth Yurth, who I've only known for about a year now.
I love them all, actually. I'm learning a lot from them. I work with all of these doctors, actually. That's how I learn about myself as well. So I was just saying about how I learned about telomeres. It was 2013. I went to to my first A4M conference. And I have a dear friend that around that time, she did a functional medicine fellowship. Even though she's a psychiatrist, she wanted to treat addiction through the lens of functional medicine. I even remember now the booth is in front of me, and I'm like, wow, that's so interesting. We started taking these TA65 supplements, but it's so difficult of measuring anything. And I went even to their office in New York. I was so interested, maybe we should bring it to Turkey. And there was some other people who were bringing it to Turkey. And I said, can we measure it? And it was such a expensive production almost to do it. And, I let it go back then. I did use the TA65 for a couple of years. Actually, my mom still used the cream. She loves it. It's almost like that's it out there for telomeres. So that's when I heard like shoelaces and it gets shorter. And then there was other people saying, oh, well, if you take supplements that will extend them or stop them, then you will give life to cancer, or there would be cancer cells that are going to be getting much stronger and so on. So there was such like a mixed messages back then. Then I just let it go, this telomeres part. So what are telomeres?
Telomeres are things they're at the tips of your chromosomes. I like to think of them like ride tickets at an amusement park. Okay. Every time a cell divides, it loses a ticket. Okay. Cell divides again, it loses a ticket. Just as if you were at an amusement park going on rides. Every time you go on a ride, you lose a ticket. Then all of a sudden you come to a ride and you want to get on the ride and you have no tickets left. So you can't go on the rides. Well, the same thing happens with our cells, our cell divisions. All of a sudden the cell wants to divide again and it has no ticket, so it can't divide. And that's what telomeres are. It's the only real clock that is 100% understood in the human body that is associated with aging. It's the only one that actually you can say controls aging, because it's the only one that's ever been where we've reversed it, like added right tickets back, and we were able to show that aging got reversed in every way of measuring imaginable, whereas nothing else has ever done that. In fact, the lengthening of the telomeres actually reversed the other markers of aging too. But they're found at the tips of our chromosomes. It was first discovered in approximately late 50s, but published in the 1961, that Leonard Hayflick had discovered that human cells can only divide a certain number of times, which back then put my thinking cap on, trying to figure out how could a cell know how many times it has divided and how many more times can it divide? And, I came up with that ride tickets at an amusement park as like the only kind of mechanism I could imagine inside of a cell where a cell could count, because cells don't have brains. They just have to go with the flow. The counting occurs and they're controlled by it. It wasn't until like the 1990s when I learned that telomeres actually get shorter every time a cell divides. And that was probably the best explanation for Leonard Hayflick's discovery, which I think I called the Hayflick limit. So the telomeres are getting shorter, just like ride tickets being ripped off. And when I learned about this, I instantly talked to the people who were doing some work on this to figure out if anybody's figured out how to add the ride tickets back. Okay. People have been working on it for years and nobody could figure it out. So I jumped ship. I was at a company at the time called Burlex Biosciences, where I thought I would never leave because I loved the company, doing mostly cancer research, heart disease research, and inflammation research. I jumped ship and went to work with this guy who was working on telomeres. And 3 months later, my team discovered the enzyme human telomerase.
And what is that?
And telomerase is an enzyme that's found only in our reproductive cells. They're called our primordial germ cells. If telomeres shortened in our reproductive cells, then our children would be born with shorter telomeres than we have. And that can't happen because their children will be born with shorter telomeres than they have. And after just a few generations, all of our DNA would be gone and we would be extinct as a species. The idea was that somehow our reproductive cells had to figure out a way to prevent or to add new ride tickets back or not lose them to begin with. My team and I discovered this enzyme human telomerase, and we were able to put it into normal skin cells grown in a petri dish and show that they never, ever reached that Hayflick limit. They could divide indefinitely. And we called them immortal, which was probably a bad choice of word. I didn't pick the name, but it stuck. And because you can still kill them, so they're not really immortal. But that's what it is. But they just grow indefinitely. But the important thing is that they still have growth control, which is they don't grow out of control. And that's what cancer is. So you mentioned something about cancer. Everybody thought that telomerase causes cancer because of that study that we did, where we showed that the cells could divide and divide and divide, but only when they were supposed to, not out of control. And that's where everybody got misled. But we did demonstrate that putting telomerase into a cell did essentially cure the cell's aging by every method of measurement we had. And then we did experiments where we grew human skin on the back of a mouse, and we showed that treating that skin with telomerase actually stopped their aging process too, and reversed every biomarker of aging imaginable at the time. Mice don't age by telomere shortening, and no rodents do. They have some weird kind of telomere biology, but it's nothing like humans. So Dr. Rhonda Pino at Harvard engineered some mice to make it so they did age by telomere shortening. Then he treated them with telomerase and found what he called a remarkable reversal of the aging process by every method of measurement, including restoration of memory. Like mice that were suffering from dementia, their memories came back, which is saying that dementia isn't the loss of memory as opposed to the loss of access to the memory. And lengthening telomeres restored the access. And I don't know if I went way off subject here, but...
No, I'm just like, my jaw dropped and I'm like, wow. And no wonder, because I was having a conversation with Liz Parrish before the podcast. And I said, if someone comes to you and say like, or whomever are doing these gene therapies, like I only want to do one of these like 4 things that she has. She said that, then I would tell them to do the Telomeres gene therapy.
Telomerase gene therapy might make the other ones all irrelevant, okay? But we don't have data on humans yet supporting that. But lengthening telomeres causes an effect on every aspect of aging we know, okay? At least in animal studies and in vitro studies. Like I have a clinical study in clinicaltrials.gov in the United States right now for lengthening telomeres in patients that have severe Alzheimer's. I'm hoping that these patients actually, their memories come back and they can live normal lives again.
Dr. Andrews, I have a question. All our organs and brain and skin and so on and so forth are having the same type of telomeres? I mean, is it a weird question that I'm asking?
No, not at all. That's not a weird question because a lot of people think every cell in the body is going to be changed. But it's all the length of the telomere is all a function of how many times have the cells divided before they got to where they are now, okay? So if some cells, like your skin cells, have divided a lot of times, their telomeres are going to be shorter. Same with the blood cells, same with the gut cells lining the guts. But a lot of cells in your body, like your neurons and stuff, they haven't gone through very much division through your lifespan. And so they have long telomeres. And the same is true for your immune cells that are in your bone marrow, your naive immune cells and a lot of memory immune cells that became memory cells when you were still young. They have long telomeres. I could spend hours on this, but people can look up things, certain types of cells. Some are called consistent replicators, some are called intermittent replicators, and some are called non-replicators. And non-replicators would be like neurons that don't ever divide. Intermittent replicators would be, let's say, like cells in your bone marrow that only divide when they're induced to divide. And then consistent replicators are like your skin cells, your gut cells, and the immune cells in your blood that are always dividing. There's a major difference. And that's one of the things that makes measuring telomeres so difficult to really correlate with aging. Well, they're very difficult to measure, but at the same time, your telomeres can change in length just by the population of cells. I know I'm jumping around, but if I could just spend a few minutes just addressing that issue, because that's become a really important issue that I'm trying to educate everybody on. That is, when a company comes and tells you that their product or treatment lengthens your telomeres.
We should come to this because I have also questions around the hyperbaric oxygen chambers around that. So let's come into that.
That's a good example. Hyperbaric chambers is a good example.
Because, I didn't know until I was getting ready for Sandra Kaufman that, it's the worst idea to do a hyperbaric oxygen chamber because that would kill the cells that, the stem cells that is floating around or, encountering with oxygen. And when I told her about they have a study in Israel for the, people who did it like 60 session, 90 minutes, they had extension to their telomeres. And she says, not according to Bill Andrews. So I was waiting for this moment actually to ask you because they're pushing me. So I'm the face of longevity biohacker, whatever, in Turkey. And centers that are inviting me, they want me to try these things. And since I started hearing these truth around these interventions, I said, I'm not getting into that.
Well, I'm excited to hear that Sandy Kaufman is listening to what I say. But that's good. But Dr. Sandra Kaufman is brilliant. And I think everybody who's interested in aging should listen to everything she says and read her books. They are the best on the planet. She's right about the fact that there might be some good things, and I'm sure there are some good things about hyperbaric chambers, but let's not focus just on hyperbaric chambers. Also, other treatments and other supplements and things like that all have a common problem, is they say they lengthen telomeres, but they never, ever demonstrate telomerase expression. And the only way to lengthen telomeres is by expressing the enzyme telomerase to lengthen the telomeres. Measuring telomerase expression is easy. If they're saying that they've lengthened telomeres, they can also measure telomerase activity. But I believe they are measuring telomerase activity and can't detect any. Okay? So this is the message that I'm trying to tell everybody. If you have a company and you fire the dumbest people in the company, the average IQ of your company goes up without anybody getting any smarter. Okay? The same thing is if the same company, if you now hire a bunch of geniuses, the average IQ of your company goes up without anybody getting any smarter. Okay, well, the same thing's happening with your blood. Just think of blood cells as having an IQ, but now the IQ is actually telomere length. Anything that's toxic to your cells at all are preferentially going to eliminate the cells with short telomeres, because cells with short telomeres is well published to be more sensitive to toxicity than other cells. So if their product or their treatment is toxic, yes, they're going to see the telomeres are longer afterwards, but not because the telomeres got lengthened, because they eliminated the cells with short telomeres. And the reason why that's bad is because those cells now have to be replaced with other cells, and the division to replace those cells to be replaced, the stem cells have to divide, and that's going to shorten the telomeres. So when they're saying the average telomere length in the blood, what they don't seem to realize is that they've actually shortened the average telomere length in the whole body. And that's a problem. Same thing is true if their treatment or supplement is immunogenic at all. Okay, if that happens, then as I mentioned before, the immune cells in your bone marrow are often very long telomeres. But if you induce an immunogenic response, those cells in the bone marrow will start dividing to add new cells to the blood, and those telomeres are still going to be longer in those cells than the cells already in your blood. And as a result, the average telomere length of your blood is going to get longer without any telomere lengthening occurring. So you have two different ways. You killing the cells with short telomeres or adding new cells with longer telomeres. Yeah, the average telomere length of the blood increases without any lengthening, but the average telomere length of the whole body decreases. And this is in order for anybody to really be able to, if you are a person, general public, that wants to lengthen your telomeres or take a product that lengthens your telomeres, make sure that you ask the company that is providing the supplement or providing the treatment that their treatment or supplement induces the expression of telomerase, because none of them do. I've tested all of them.
You said you were a founder of a company.
Yes, I founded Sierra Sciences to find something that really does induce telomeres. Now, let me qualify. Liz Parrish's gene therapy does. Okay, but that's a gene therapy. Hundreds of thousands of dollars per dose, and I'm a big fan of that because it's going to be great proof of concept. Yeah, I started a company and I started testing for things. As I said, I'm one of the inventors of TA65, but I was always a little bit leery about does it induce telomerase or not, stuff like that. So, and then I decided to search for things, especially plant extracts that actually do. And we ended up discovering, we tested over 20,000 different plant extracts in our proprietary high throughput robotic RT-PCR assay. That's a mouthful. But and that's, when I say mRNA, I mean telomerase mRNA. We tested over 20,000 different plant extracts, and we found like 40 to 50 that actually, when added to human cells, will induce the production of telomerase. I don't market anything. I just do research. Behind me is 10,500 square feet of lab space and nothing else. That's all we do is research here. But I license these plant extracts to other companies that then market them. And unfortunately, they're kind of expensive. And so some of the companies that I did license them to kind of quit selling them because their profit margin wasn't high enough. But a new company just launched a product that has the absolute strongest telomerase inducers that I ever discovered. And that's a company called Touchstone Essentials. So they just a few weeks ago launched a product called TeloVital, TeLO-VITAL. I'm not marketing it. I'm not doing anything like that. The only thing on the planet that stops telomere shortening is gene therapy. Okay, as I said before, that's super expensive. Only the super wealthy are going to be able to afford it. And even though all these companies claim to lengthen telomeres, none of them really are. Okay, but this is the product that produces the most telomerase. In fact, it's the only one that produces any telomerase at all. And so I always use the analogy of telomere shortening and lengthening like a tug of war, because there's actually two processes going on inside of cells when they divide. First, the telomere shorten, and then telomerase comes and lengthens them. That's what happens in our reproductive cells, for instance. There's a tug of war, but in the absence of telomerase, it's a one-sided tug of war. We have people pulling on the rope to shorten our telomeres, and that's all that happens. So when we induce telomerase, we add people to the other side, but not enough to win the tug of war or even tie the tug of war, but it definitely decreases the rate that the shorteners are shortening the telomeres. Okay, and that's a really important thing because it's the only thing that provides the opportunity for a human to live longer than the theoretical maximum lifespan of humans, which is 125 years. And we never lived that long because of we do a lot of things to accelerate our telomere shortening, lifestyle and genetics. But by doing anything that actually induces telomerase would decrease the rate of telomere shortening below what's called the basal level rate of telomere shortening. And therefore, somebody has the opportunity to possibly live longer than 125 years, live healthy for longer than 125 years. Because this is not just going to reverse or slow down aging. It's going to slow down declining health too. And also because, I know I'm long-winded here, because we have shown, and other labs have shown too, that telomerase preferentially lengthens the shortest telomeres, as if during that tug of war, the people pulling to shorten are falling off a cliff. So the shorter the telomeres get, the fewer people are pulling to shorten. Because now telomerase is going to preferentially lengthen the shortest one, you should see some reversal of aging too. Because then maybe you do put enough people on the side of the tug of war to lengthen, only because the number of people on the side to shorten has been reduced. So there's opportunity to see a reversal of aging and an opportunity to live beyond the theoretical maximum lifespan dictated by the Hayflick limit. These are things I'm super excited about, but none of the other things are going to have any chance of doing that without inducing telomerase.
You know, I want to really ask, I know that hyperbaric oxygen chamber is really helpful for burn victims, for stroke, for diabetes and stuff. So there's no doubt about that. But what are your thoughts about that study coming out of Israel? Because that's the data that they're showing people to sell chambers, to rent chambers and so on. And you're the person who knows it can help or not. What are your thoughts and your theories around that?
I wish more people would ask me before they spend their fortunes on these hyperbaric chambers, because they're suckers, okay? the publications, the main publications are only showing telomeres are longer afterwards than before, okay? They're not showing that telomeres actually got lengthened. And as I said before, their telomeres in the whole body have actually gotten shorter. Believe me, I was at a conference just a few weeks ago, and there was a company promoting hyperbaric chambers. And I said, okay, where's the data showing that you induced telomerase? And he sent me to the main study that I think you were just referring to.
Yeah.
And I said, there's no data in there saying that telomerase gets induced. It just says the telomeres are longer. Boy, the same thing happened when there was a twin astronaut study where one twin went up in space and one twin stayed on the ground. The twin that went up in space had longer telomeres after he got back. But it wasn't because his telomeres got lengthened. It was because the shock of being in space made changes to his blood population. Got rid of cells with short telomeres or added cells with long telomeres. so we see this rampant everywhere. There's a lot of YouTube videos where I try to explain all this to people, but I'm not a good marketer. Okay. That's not my business. And very few people tend to watch my YouTube videos, but hopefully your podcast here will get a large audience so we can start helping people here.
We are helping people. You know, I'm one of a kind in Turkey, actually, and I'm actually proud of what we do and all you guys that are accepting my invitation. So what about the astragalus plant that you came up? Is it your finding, astragalus?
Yeah. When I was still at Geron Corporation, where I led the research to discover human telomerase, we tested a few plant extracts, just a few, that we got from a group in China. And we found that astragalus root actually gave us a signal in a telomerase assay that was actually very primitive type of assay. Okay, so the assays have gotten a lot better, mostly. By the way, so I'm an inventor or co-inventor of every single assay for measuring telomere length or telomerase activity. So I know these assays forward and backwards. But we got a signal. I thought it was extremely weak. And I thought, well, shoot, this is nothing that's ever going to cure aging or have an effect on aging. We went ahead and purified something out of it anyway. At the time, we weren't disclosing what it is. We licensed it to another company called TA Sciences, who called it TA65. It's now being circulated that TA65 is cycloestragonol, but I can't get the same kind of data out of cycloestragonol that I can out of TA65. Personally, I don't know what TA65 is. I don't believe it's cycloestragonol, but I just think, well, shoot, it's way too weak to actually lengthen telomeres. And their data is showing telomere lengthening can only be explained by this change in the cell population, as I mentioned before. So astragalus is a really good traditional Chinese medicine. I definitely am a big fan of astragalus, but it does not lengthen telomeres. Okay. And neither does any ingredient purified from it. In fact, in our research here at my company now, Sierra Sciences, we find that 1 out of every 400 chemicals at random induce more telomerase than TA65 and other things.
Dr. Andrews, what are the age limit that people lived until now? I'm sure because you're the researcher, I'm sure like you have a solid number.
There's several studies, and I show references when I usually give presentations. There's references showing that we have a theoretical maximum lifespan of 125 years. None of the 3 studies that I show explain it by telomere shortening, but it turns out telomere shortening produces the exact same number too. But nobody ever lives that long because there's so many genetic variations that accelerate our aging, and there's so many lifestyle things that accelerate our aging, especially things like smoking. Our average lifespan is approximately around 80. Our median lifespan is actually a little higher. I think a lot of that is due to, well, not just telomere shortening, but I believe that lengthening telomeres could undo almost all the damage. And I won't really know until we get a chance to do the studies. That's something I'm looking forward to Liz Parrish doing, because she's providing the only therapy that actually could lengthen telomeres. And then again, it's going to, so the exciting thing is I know she's getting ready to treat a patient that's 101 years old.
Wow.
Okay. And that should provide some pretty big clues in, let's say in 26 years or 24 years, he exceeds the Hayflick limit. That would be really, really exciting.
So how about that French woman?
God, what's her name?
Jean.
No, I know it's Jean Calment is her name, but suddenly I can't remember the name. It's people that really do a lot of studying on aging. Jean Calment, the most recent studies have strongly suggested that her daughter assumed her name and place in life when the real John Calment passed away. And there was they weren't trying to fake age. She was trying to keep her mother's alimony payments or something like that. She couldn't later tell the truth, But she took it to her grave that she had replaced her mother, and it was the two of them combined that actually went to 122 years. So really nobody has really exceeded 120 yet. There's people claiming to be different ages, and there's all kinds of studies proving that they're fakes and liars, because you can actually make a living by pretending to be really old. Like I know there's one marathon runner that gets paid to speak at conferences and stuff like that. He claims to be over 100 years old. And I know the experts have actually done investigations and found out he's actually in his 70s. So John Comment wasn't trying to fake being the longest living person. Her daughter was just trying to get alimony payments or something.
But based on your knowledge, how old, like the oldest person have been? Like
117, 118, right in those ballpark areas.
Okay. Do you think they have a better genetic compositions that they live that long? They lived in a very rural areas that they don't have any insults to their cells?
Well,
mixture?
I'm going to say that mostly it's their genetics. They just got lucky in the genetic draw. Okay. But it's a factor of a lot of things, genetics and lifestyle. John Comment used to smoke a lot. Her daughter used to smoke a lot. And so we got to ignore that now. There's these places called blue zones too, where people are saying they live longer. But, some people published some books a while back about the blue zones, but I've been actually consulted by some of these countries like Okinawa. They've flown me out 3 times because they're no longer a blue zone, and they're trying to reestablish their role as a blue zone. They want me to help them do it. Like one of the things, I've got degrees, my PhDs, but I also have a minor in statistical theory. And I know for the fact that every year you can do an analysis all over the world if you had the money to do it and find out where's the longest living people. And that's going to change every year just because of statistical randomness. So there really aren't these blue zones. And people are justifying trying to explain why this is and then trying to make money off of marketing their lifestyle, their foods, their diets, things like that. But right now, none of the blue zones hold water, no pun intended. So I think living a long time is a combination of luck and lifestyle. Okay. And believe me, I do everything I can to live a lifestyle that it's going to extend my lifespan as long as possible.
You said that, there's like a 25 times one ticket. I mean, I don't even know how to explain this in the scientific language. But so normally if the person had a very sterile life, that may even help cause the shortening, but so that they can live until 125 years old. We cannot even come there yet, obviously. So with Liz Parrish's gene therapy, is it like a one, because I know that she repeated for herself twice, I guess. Is there anything out there that's going to be like one intervention and then it's going to be lasting forever?
Yeah,
then you never die?
That's my goal. That's what Sierra Science is all about. When such a product exists, I can tell you right now, it's going to come from my company, Sierra Sciences. But we aren't going to be the ones that market it. I'm sure I would license it to somebody like Liz Parrish, and she would be the marketer.
But she then licensed to someone else. Like this is like how it goes with her too.
She's not really licensed it to somebody else. She's working with another company that actually does the treatment, because her company doesn't actually have doctors and stuff like that. But she's contracted with another company. When she gets patients, she sends them to IHS that then does the treatment. But she hasn't licensed them to anybody else, as far as I know.
But so far, what's existing? How long, do they know? Were they able to measure whomever did? I know Liz did. Anyone else did her gene therapy besides her?
She's treated a bunch of people. I know some of them. I would call this more of a clinical study. We're just trying to observe results right now, but it's kind of hard to do that when you're dealing with private citizens that are paying a lot and want to keep their privacy. So I mentioned a 101-year-old guy that's going to do it, but he wants his name to be kept totally secret. And so I can't tell you who he is. In fact, I just gave away half. made it half, by saying it's a man, that eliminates half the world. But I believe that we're coming up with better gene therapies. By better, I mean, in the case of gene therapies, less expensive, less side effects. Not everybody gets side effects, but some people do get some side effects, such as immune responses. Higher infectivity rates, which will mean you can use less virus to get. And gene therapies are a virus to deliver the gene. Yeah. But you use less virus to get all the cells infected, and that would make it cheaper. But at the same time, we're working on small molecules, nutraceuticals, things like that. An ideal thing would be to find a nutraceutical, a plant extract that actually would produce as much telomerase as gene therapy does. And I mentioned we've tested 20,000 different plant extracts, but there's 3 million plus plant extracts that we could be testing. It costs us $2 million a month, just $2 million US a month, just to do the testing. So we're nowhere near testing 3 million plant extracts, but I'm hoping that something will come out of that. I'm a big fan of this company called Touchstone Essentials that just launched Telovital. So I'm almost certain that when we find more potent stuff, we'll probably license it to them to market.
Dr. Andrews, so are there things that people can do to slow down the shortening?
Yes.
Besides the smoking, let's say, like more like proactive stuff?
And I talk about this a lot at my conferences. Antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, both of those are really, really good for slowing down the rate of what I call accelerated telomere shortening. But keep in mind, there is this level called basal level telomere shortening, which is the level of shortening that occurs just because of the wear and tear of frontline cells doing their normal bodily functions. And those can't be slowed down. There's wear and tear. Those cells get lost on the average of like once a year. Other cells have to divide to replace those cells. And that means that we have telomere shortening occurring there. And there's nothing we can do to slow that down. Okay. But the accelerated telomere shortening by poor lifestyle choices like smoking, drinking a lot. Okay. Drinking's an example I like to use. Okay. So if you are really, really drinking a lot, you are killing your liver cells. That's okay when you're young, because when you kill a liver cell, you have another cell that can divide to replace that killed cell. So you don't even know it, okay? But then when you get to be in your 40s or 50s, because of all this accelerated cell division and therefore accelerated telomere shortening, 40 to 50, you've suddenly run out of ride tickets, okay? And your cells can't divide to replace those killed liver cells anymore. And so the dead cells just accumulate, and that's called liver cirrhosis. When we come up with a way of lengthening all your telomeres, then you can drink whatever you want, anytime you want, and never have to worry about it. Or until then, drinking alcohol is accelerating your aging. Smoking works the same way. Microdermabrasion works the same way. Microdermabrasion makes your skin look young, but your skin's actually getting older because you're killing cells and other cells have to divide to replace those cells.
Wow, hold on, that's interesting. Laser treatments as well?
Yep. Laser treatments, anything that you do that kills a cell in your body faster than normal bodily functions kill cells is accelerating your aging process. Okay. That includes immune boosters, which are good. That includes bodybuilding, which is killing cells and other cells have to divide. You're building muscle because of all the regrowth of muscle cells. I mean, all these things accelerate aging. But I want to qualify this because a lot of these things are good, okay? A lot of people, people are happier when they got big muscles and they're attracting people of the opposite or same sex and things like that. It's same with microdermabrasion. I mean, that's good. I mean, people really want that. And so I say, what's the point of living a long time if you're not living? So I say, continue to do these things. I don't want to discourage people from doing it because I have faith in me that I'm going to find a way to re-lengthen your telomeres and undo the damage that was caused from it causing the accelerated telomere shortening. It's almost like you're marching into hell for a heavenly cause. And I am going to undo the damage from marching into hell, but still be able to benefit from the heavenly causes. It's, I just made up that analogy now.
So you don't do workout in a way to build muscles?
I work in a way that keeps it healthy. Okay. So like I run every day. But I don't spend a lot of time trying to make myself look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay. I just focus on trying to maintain a reasonably good health. I'm never going to win a bodybuilding contest.
Okay, so you're talking about bodybuilding sizes, not like to eliminate the sarcopenia.
Exactly. Okay, because sarcopenia is going to be something that is actually a result of accelerated aging, and some kind of body working out actually decreases that rate. So I think of exercise as like a Goldilocks effect. There's such thing as too much, and there's such things as too little, and in the middle, there's just right. I speak a lot at like endurance sports conferences and things like that, whether it's running, kayaking, biking, whatever. And I always say, keep it fun. Okay. Mm-hmm. When it quits being fun, quit. Okay. And be consistent too. Don't be one of these people that exercise every 2 weeks and then compete in events and do well, end up spending days recovering. Mm-hmm. Be somebody that runs or exercises or does endurance sports every day. And keep it fun. When it quits being fun, quit. Save it for another day. And you'll find out it gets easier and easier and easier without inducing inflammation. The big problem with exercise is it induces inflammation if your body thinks it's the wrong thing. Okay? So train your body to think that exercise is the right thing and you don't inflammation responses. I mean, I can run 100 miles, which is 160 plus kilometers. I can run 100 miles without ever getting tired, without ever feeling bad, only because I've built up to it, okay? Used to hold the world record for the most 100-mile races run in 1 year, and it was easy. You know, get into that kind of state. That's really good for your health.
Are there any foods that you suggest? Obviously, I'm not talking about like fried foods or seed oils and whatever, but in a healthy food intake, healthy diet, are there any of them causing more shortening than the others, like red meat?
The problem is, in many cases, everybody's different. Inflammation, a lot of foods induce inflammation. Different foods induce inflammation in some people than other people. I recommend what's called an ALCAT test, ALCAT.
Yes.
It's not an allergy test. It's a food sensitivity test, testing for foods to induce inflammation in you. So if you Google ALCAT, you can find someplace, like I go to a company called Cell Sciences to get my ALCAT test, and I do it every year. Okay, it tells me what foods I shouldn't be eating because they induce inflammation. So I don't eat those foods. So those are things that are different for everybody, but there's things that are common to everybody, and that's like arachidonic acid, which is found in meats and fowl and fish and dairy, but not in plants. Arachidonic acid is very inflammatory to everybody. I'm actually, turns out to be especially sensitive to arachidonic acid, so I'm completely vegan just to reduce inflammation, but from meats and fowl and fish and dairy. There's a good book to read that was written by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn called How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. I mean, it's a book about heart disease, but it's actually, when you read it, you find it's a book about inducing or not inducing inflammation. Another really great book is written by Floyd Chilton that's called Inflammation Nation, and he talks a lot about arachidonic acid. Other books by Dr. Amy Doneen, which goes into a lot about genetic dispositions and things like that as to ways, and tells you how to deal with if you have a genetic predisposition to having health problems. She's got solutions for you. I can send you links to all these things. I have a stack of books here that I consider like the Bibles of health. I would say everybody would probably be better off being vegan And also, as Caldwell Esselstyn says, stop eating oils, all oils, because oils actually cause your collateral arteries, your microvasculature, to the vessels there to collapse. And so you have less energy, you are put yourself at higher risk of heart attacks. If your coronary arteries get clogged up and you don't have your collateral arteries to blood to your blood and heart and brain, that could kill you. And so keep your collateral
arteries. We're talking
about
we're not talking about olive oil, I guess.
Yeah, we are talking about olive oil. Olive oil.
Wow.
I mean,
all oils.
Yeah, all oils, especially the tropical oils is what I've heard. And that includes avocados, includes nuts. What I'm really good at is what I call critical meta-analysis of peer-reviewed studies. So I do this all the time. I even have a podcast about it. It's called Up One. So it's like taking things up a notch in terms of trying to find out what's healthy for you and what's not. Because I do critical meta-analysis to find out what's real. I've done critical meta-analysis on oils, and I found, wow, there's a lot of publications saying oil is good for you. But when I do critical analysis of those studies, I find that the studies are flawed, they're lacking information, all the twos and twos don't add up. And then I find the ones that report that oils do cause collapse of collateral arteries and stuff like that. They're really good studies, especially Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn studies. So I'm a big believer of that from my critical meta-analysis of peer-reviewed studies, that oil's not something, I don't even cook in oil, okay? I'm obsessed with living as long as I can, not because I'm afraid of dying, but I'm just afraid of missing out on the future. You know,
do you have time to enjoy life when you work so hard?
I love living. I enjoy, I get out a cabin that I go to almost every weekend. I do have an office at my cabin, so I do get work done, but I really enjoy myself. I wouldn't change my life for anything, okay? I have a lot of fun learning about health, which is to my advantage and everybody else's advantage. Anybody that seeks advice from me is going to benefit from that. And I have a lot of followers. I have a lot of people that actually think of me as the one person they can trust, the anti-charlatan, because I'm in it for nothing. I'm not making money from marketing, things like that. I'm just trying to cure my own aging.
Dr. Andrews, you have multiple things. I want to very shortly ask you about this immortal pet project. Because I have 2 dogs, and when I was looking to your website, when I saw that, that's so nice. So what is that about?
Two pet products. One is I do have a project leader here at this company who's focused on the pet products, and she is now trying to get prototypes set up and find companies to market the products. And so, boy, if anybody's out there is interested in marketing pet products, I can put you in contact with her.
But immortal, I thought that it was around aging.
The immortal pet cloning, it's called. That's a little bit drastic. I'm looking forward to this as proof of concept. But so you know that right now there are companies in the world right now that actually can clone your pets. So if your pet dies, you can cut off a part of the ear or something like that and send it to this company. Okay. That company would take cells from that tissue and make a new pet for you that identical genetically as the pet you had.
But that would be an old pet, no?
Well, yeah, that's one of the problems. Okay. Okay. So what I am recommending is that when we get the cells, we first use one of our gene therapies to get those cells to produce telomerase. And then we send those cells to one of those companies that clone your pets, and you end up getting a pet that has telomerase produced in all their cells is possibly immortal. Okay, well, it's still going to be run over by a car or something like that and still killed, but at least it's not going to be suffering from the hayflick anymore. And plus, I strongly believe, remember I don't think I mentioned it before, I was National Inventor of the Year in the United States for my cancer research. I've taken a lot of drugs through clinical studies. I've invented drugs and taken them through clinical studies for treating cancer. So I do know a lot about cancer. And I believe that these pets that have telomerase produced in all their cells are going to have a far decreased risk of cancer than dogs and cats and horses that don't have telomerase produced in all their cells.
Well, the one question that comes to my mind, of course, let's say that it seems like in a couple of years, you're going to be resolving this issue. You're like, it's almost ready. You need just the funding to start applying on humans. Funding is the only
obstacle. We know the science. The science is easy.
Yeah. What's going to be the world like? Like nobody dies.
A lot better than it is now.
You ever think of?
Yeah. Yeah. In my books, I have whole chapters on that. Okay. But I've thought about every different issue, all the negatives. I mean, one of the most important is, how are the young ever going to get jobs if the old never retire? Okay. And I use the word old. I prefer not to. I usually don't use the word old. I like to call them longer lived, because life's about living, not getting old. How are the young ever going to get jobs if the longer lived never retire? That's going to be a big problem. But I know a lot, because I do go to assisted living homes. I've been doing it since I was in high school. Go to assisted living homes, hospices, nursing homes, talk to the patients. They're miserable. They're unhappy. It's an awful life. And it'd be nice to be able to prevent that kind of thing. And I believe, let's say in 200 years from now, if somebody puts on the ballot for a vote that we should ban the cure for aging, nobody's going to want to return to the way things are now. I mean, yeah, curing aging is going to have a lot of sociological problems. We're good at dealing with problems. Look at the World Wide Web. Okay. When the World Wide Web was first introduced, we all thought, no way, we can't do this. This is way too complicated. Now we can't live without it. Okay. Humans adapted, and they're going to adapt to curing aging too, just like they're going to adapt to robots doing all the work. We are very adaptable species. We're going to figure it out. Nobody's ever going to want to return to the way things are now after we experience all the benefits from curing aging. Bottom line.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you, Dr. Andrews. It's hopeful. It's confusing. It's challenging. But with you great scientists working on these issues, the reason, as a closing statement, normally I said these at the beginning, but,
Don't close yet, because there's something we didn't talk about.
All right, let's not close.
You at the beginning, you had mentioned you heard rumors that telomerase causes cancer.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm an expert on cancer. That's why I got the National Inventor of the Year award for my cancer research. I can tell you, I did a presentation in Tokyo in 2017 where I just kicked that subject in the butt. Okay. And people can Google and find a Tokyo 2017 presentation where I just went into great excruciating detail to explain why telomerase does not cause cancer. That's just a rumor by people that don't know anything about cancer. It actually decreases the risk of cancer. Short telomeres are one of the major causes of cancer, and weakened immune system are one of the major causes of cancer, and both get corrected by lengthening telomeres with telomerase. I can provide the link to that video too.
Who came up with that rumor then?
I think.
Or how did they come up with that idea?
It's just people. There's a thing called histrionic personality disorder.
Yeah, I'm a psychologist.
I also have a degree in psychology. Okay. Experimental psychology mostly. Histrionic personality disorder is a disorder where people just need attention all the time. And so the field of anti-aging is just filled with such people that are constantly trying to get into the news and make press releases. And the only way to do it is to say something different than everybody else. So one of the things that I did when my team first discovered human telomerase, we did know that cancer cells do produce telomerase, but the telomerase did not cause the cancer. The cancer cells became cancer first, and then through mutations induced by short telomeres, the cancers ended up figuring out a way to turn on the telomerase gene to lengthen the telomeres. So one of the main things that I wanted to do, and others too, when I first discovered telomerase, was put the antisense of telomerase into cancer cells. When me and my team did that, we were able to show that we killed every cancer cell by doing that, and it had no effect on normal cells. So it was one of the best cancer treatments ever. And it's taken 30 plus years, but it's now on the market. That particular antisense that I developed over 30 years ago is called Rytelo. You won't find my name associated with it at all because I had nothing to do with it. Everything I did with it was before clinical studies. So they've been doing clinical studies, but I even have better ways in my company of treating cancer. And that's by not inhibiting telomerase, but poisoning cells that are telomerase positive. So cancer cells that are telomerase positive, because actually inhibiting telomerase actually causes telomeres to get shorter and causing mutation rates to skyrocket. And cancer cells figure out a way to keep the telomeres long without telomerase called the alt pathway. So cancers always come back. And I said that 30 plus years ago. I said this antisense is only going to delay cancer a little bit. Cancers are always going to come back. And that's exactly what they saw. And that's one of the reasons it took 30 plus years before the FDA ever approved it to be released for treating any cancers. But yeah, people should check out Rytelo. And I think it's a wonderful thing to reduce cancer for a while, but cancers are going to come back. So if we could just poison cancer cells without the telomeres getting shorter. In fact, in my protocols I have here, I recommend lengthening the telomeres first to decrease the mutation rates, and then, take away the treatments that lengthen telomeres and then replace it with the treatments that kill telomerase positive cells. And you will only kill the cancer cells, not the normal cells. And that's again, the only reason why that's not done yet is because it's funding. Funding's the obstacle, but we have that in-house too. And I'm probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the world about cancer. Developed so many different cancer treatments, and I've never liked any of them, but the companies that I work for still took them through clinical studies and stuff like that. But I've always had a vision of like what's really needed to cure cancer.
It's so weird. I said the same thing when I was chatting with Liz Parrish on the podcast. I said, there's so much money in the world. Like, there's so much money. Like, it was never like this. It's just like we're only talking in billions of dollars now, not even millions of dollars when you tell people's wealth. Numbers that you or Liz or any Aubrey de Grey are mentioning are not like in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So I don't understand how these super wealthy people are not interested on changing any of these. When I'm saying people are in this billions of dollar talks, you're not saying like you need 100 billion to cure. You're saying, yes, hundreds of millions. Yes, I know. So I'm like, I don't understand how they're not interested.
Well, the people with the money are not knowledgeable about aging. Okay? They get suckered or duped. I like the word duped. Into investing into the entertainers, okay? The people there's another term, redders, people skilled in the art of persuasion, okay? I mean, I'm not that person. I can talk about the science. I'm just too honest and truthful. I never make false claims and things like that. And as a result, I don't get the kind of funding that some of these charlatans are getting because the investors believe in them because they're good at the art, and they're good in the art of persuasion. So this is the big problem. The other problem is that investors they've got this mindset. They've got to make quick return on the profits, on investments. I mean, I had this problem for many years when I first started this company. Unfortunately, I've gotten rid of all my traditional investors because I found that investors invest in the dream, but not the dream coming true. Okay? So my investors all wanted me to work on other things because my cure for aging plans would take too long and they wanted return on their investments quicker. So I would work on all these different projects for them. And they'd come in and take over my scientific strategy meetings and say, stop the presses. Here, I want you guys to do this instead. And we'd do it and we'd succeed. And we had a lot of success doing what they wanted us to do. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, they decided, well, now let's sell the company because the company has been so successful. Sell the company for a big profit. And that would have destroyed me because they would have sold all my intellectual property and stuff like that. Lucky me, I had a few of those investors that were more interested in the cure for their aging, and they orchestrated a complete takeover for me that cost me a total of $3. Okay. And, but they're still looking forward to me curing their aging. Whereas all those other investors, I had over 50 investors. All the other ones, they just wanted quick return on investments. And so yeah, and even I have had at least 10 billionaires, multi-billionaires, sitting across the table from me in this very room I'm in right now that offered investment, but they wanted control and they wanted me to give them quick return on investments really quick, even though they were multi-billionaires. And I turned them down. I'm not going to get back into that kind of like scenario, racket. Let's say that kind of racket where all I'm doing is trying to make wealthy people more money. I want to cure aging. I'm more interested in the humanitarian return on investment than the financial return on investment. But it's like the crazy thing is that when I come up with a cure for aging, it's going to be a gazillion dollars those investors are going to make, whoever invests in that.
Or they're going to be, like, believe me, they're going to line up in front of your door to be cured.
They can't just invest and then take control. So if somebody would let me cure aging without trying to control me, we could have aging cured in 1 to 3 years from now. I've got the entire business plan all put together. I have extrapolated from all of our work to extrapolation is always going to give a range. This is statistical theory again. I figured it would take, the soonest we could do it is 1 year from now, but the longest it would take would be 3 years from now. If we could just get the plan going that I have outlined, which cost us $2 million a month to do, okay, because of all the buying the plant extracts and buying the random chemicals and the ingredients used in the screening assay and running our robots and the medicinal chemists that are designing chemicals. And we have so many different things. I talk about these things. I show all the different departments here. And it costs us $2 million a month to be able to do this screening project to identify something that could cure aging.
And it's going to be, you're talking about the more, not like the gene therapy, but more like a daily supplement type of intervention.
I want a pill that costs no more than 10 cents a dose to make. Okay. I would love it if I found an investor that wasn't interested in money at all. And after we came up with this drug, we could just drop it from airplanes so everybody could have it for free. That would make me the happiest person in the world. I'll make a living from speaking engagements. I'm not in it for the money. Even without, we can still make a profit. So investors can still make a gazillion dollars and it would still be way cheaper per person than gene therapy will be. Gene therapy will come down in price and I'm working on doing that. But it's not my ultimate goal. Gene therapy is just a temporary proof of concept for me. Be able to see people that won't survive long enough to be around when the pill comes along, at least they can still survive by doing gene therapy. So I want to see that. I just hate the fact that 150,000 people are dying from aging-related diseases every single day. And we got to stop that.
Well, let's send this wish to the universe, and I'm sure one person at a time we will be able to make this happen. This is the way that we spread the message, and some right person listening to this or someone showing this to someone else, and this is the way that it's going to work, I guess. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's so sentimental to me as well. My grandmother died of Alzheimer's disease. She had diabetes. There's diabetes in the family. It's sad to see your loved ones passing due to some illnesses. And if you could reverse them, then life is so beautiful.
My father and my younger brother both passed away from Alzheimer's too. And they both carried the ApoE4 gene, okay, which I'm lucky enough not to have inherited from my father. So I'm not at high risk of Alzheimer's. But I do have family members, nephews, things like that do have Alzheimer's. But I've been out to cure Alzheimer's before I ever knew that any family members had the risk of Alzheimer's. And so nothing's changed for me. I'm still, that's always been my number one goal, is to cure Alzheimer's, because Alzheimer's is a disease worse than death. Sorry to get that out. Hard to get that out. And it's just a miserable. I mean, to know that you suddenly had Alzheimer's and you're going to soon not be able to know who your family members are. That is the worst nightmare of all time. And I just hate the disease. And I saw that happen with my father and my younger brother. And I'm afraid I'm going to be seeing it with some other family members when the ApoE4 gene starts to take effect. And
what you're working on is going to help, yeah?
Yes. I'm a strong believer. I've been studying Alzheimer's my entire life. I've been a medical researcher my entire life, though I officially became one back in the 1980s. Alzheimer's has been something I have studied inside and out, and I strongly believe that lengthening telomeres will be a cure for Alzheimer's. And reverse it. I believe that if somebody's can't even remember who their family members are, if we could treat them with Liz Parrish's telomerase gene therapy, we could make their memories come back. And they could live a normal life.
Thank you again. And maybe I'll see you in Vegas. I might be coming.
To RadFest?
Yeah.
That'd be great. I'm speaking 4 times at RadFest.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Andrews. And I wish you the luck. And hopefully we'll all together resolve these issues. We'll try to find investors. You guys do the science, and all together we resolve this.
Okay, and I'm going to try to remember all the links that I told you about, and I'll send them to you right away.
All right.
So look for an email.
Thank you very much.
Soon. All right, thank you.